Hello and welcome to the AF cast, where we have no idea what we're doing, why we do it, or who we're talking about. This may be the worst ever podcast that you subscribe to, and for that, we're sorry. We're not really. Okay, so this week we are following on from our effectively we were on our off season there, with everybody doing lots of different things. So Andrew, what have you been up to?
Well, since we last recorded, I've moved house, which has been quite tiring. So yeah, I feel like I'm going to have a bit of an echoey recording today. I'm recording in my kitchen and it seems to be quite an echoey room, lots of hard surfaces. Hopefully next time we record I'll actually have a desk, so I'll be back into a softer room with less echoes. So we'll see how that goes.
If that's the extent of the bad feedback we get in this podcast, I'll be amazed. Steve, what have you been up to?
Not much really. Yeah, so we were all kind of cross paths with house moving and holidays and whatnot. So
I had one of them as well.
You did have that, didn't you? You forgot about it. It's because you've been back at work for a week now. It just feels like a faint memory. Yeah, I had the joyous time of being in Disneyland Paris for a week, so that was good. So, yeah.
How awesome was that?
It was awesome. It was very awesome. Yes, I have to say. Spent absolutely shitloads. It was nonsense, utter nonsense. But
kids love it.
Why? Yeah, big time. It was awesome.
I feel like I probably should have asked that earlier than me.
Well, like this week when I was back at work.
Yeah. To be fair, I seen you every time I seen you this week at work. I seen you and I was like
super busy.
Really
20 minutes.
You, but I was like,
I'm late for a meeting. I've got to go. You're like the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. I'm late.
It was literally like that. That time when I seen you all at the canteen, I was like, fuck. I was like 30 minutes late for the meeting already. I had no idea where I was going. Just rocked up as though like, yeah, sorry, I got the wrong time. I was expecting to be getting a total grilling, but it was okay. So for myself, I've been adjusting to 13-hour days and a new job, which has been very difficult, waking up at 5:30 and not getting home to 7. But I'm still here in some sense. Okay, so yeah, back to what we're actually here for, rather than just like a tale of our lives. So we're going to talk American football. So let's start off with, anyone heard anything exciting or any good news they want to share before we get into our little divisional review?
Anyone get the update from like half an hour ago about Saquon Barkley signing his deal?
Oh, has he? Is that him confirmed?
Aye, 4 years, 31.2 million, fully guaranteed. Not bad, eh?
Jesus.
Yeah, the top picks in the rookie, actually a good chunk of the first round, if not all of them now, tend to get fully guaranteed contracts these days. So when they changed the rookie pay scale, so both of you are back into this prior to that, the wage change from, God, it was maybe about 7 years ago now, thinking about it. So what it used to have is all the college bods would come out, and the first overall pick, so Sam Bradford, for example, was one. He got like something crazy, like a 70 million contract, like 45 million guaranteed or something, and he'd never played anything other than college. And the contracts for the first overall picks were just getting wilder and wilder every year. So the last time they renegotiated the agreement, they put in a rookie wage scale, which gave a lot more control over how much rookies would get paid. I'm pretty sure I've not seen a rookie getting 30 million yet, though, because I mean it's obviously tied in as a percentage and stuff, so it's going to increase, through years anyway. But I think Saquon Barkley has the biggest rookie contract that I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah,
and he's only the second pick as well. Wait till Baker Mayfield gets his now, because now that Barkley's signed and he's a running back, Mayfield's agent's going to be saying in Cleveland, right, you just got to beat that then and I'll get signed.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Oh, it's nonsense.
I hope that it'd be like the most Browns thing ever if he didn't sign.
Yeah, Hard Knock starts and Mayfield's not even in the building.
Wouldn't it just be the Browns? And actually, it's probably a good thing for the Browns because they've got future Hall of Famer Tyrod Taylor anyway. So.
That's it, you got your mention. What we got? 5 minutes, well done.
Has to get that in. Had to get that in.
Ethan Cam is restored
one
to the
other
world. You've not talked about him in 4 weeks. You must be going down.
Well, it's been like... Yeah, I've had to see a therapist. Yeah, so... one other thing, obviously DeMarco Murray retired since we last spoke. I was a little bit surprised by that. I thought he would have maybe, got one more gig somewhere. Not sure where. Not sure how much of it was he didn't have that much interest, or he didn't want to go somewhere where he wasn't going to be the guy.
I think you'll find a lot of it was that, because I'm sure he said he had offers from 5. He said 5 or 6 teams had been in touch. I think he just chose he'd had enough and he wanted to walk away. But it was only 7 years, which isn't a huge contract, length of service really. But I mean, the average in NFL
don't have
exactly. They don't.
Do they?
Nah, because they just get battered senseless. And when he was the guy in Cowboys, he was getting 390 carries a season and just getting mauled. So no wonder he's probably more injured than anything. I thought, I've made my money. I'm just going to call it quits now at 7 years. But the scary thing, because I'm getting older and I've watched this longer and longer, he's like, it's the beginning of all the people that I've now watched their entire careers. I'm like, oh Jesus, I'm getting old. So yeah, it's probably about, what is this, be my 10th season coming back up, I think, since I've got back into it. So I've well covered his length, easy.
Lifespan. Cool. And one other thing I thought I would just quickly go over was, I don't know if any of you watched the video or not. I actually seen it on Twitter rather than the NFL app, but it was Lamar Jackson's deep ball. Did any of you see that video?
Oh no,
I've not seen that.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Well, that's because you're rooting for your boy to put Flacco out, eh? That's what you said last time, right?
I know, I really am. When I seen it, I was like, there he is. That's I think it was probably deeper than Joe Flacco's ever thrown ever.
That's one thing though. For all you shitting on Joe Flacco, that boy has a cannon arm, and he always has since day one.
No, I know.
I'll give him that.
I know. He's just unbelievably boring and rubbish.
Yeah. He's actually, the fact that Baltimore's are in camp's quite interesting, because they're obviously doing the Hall of Fame game, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
So naturally they would start earlier. But I was having a look at the dates today of everyone that's doing their training camps, and quite a lot of teams only have about 2 days before the main camp that the rookies show up. Baltimore's one of 5 teams that actually have a week before. They give the rookies a week, and I'm beginning to think, and we'll talk about this more later, that actually maybe that's an advantage. Well, no, because the Saints are one, and obviously we're in the NFC South today. So I was kind of thinking about, well, does that give you a bit of a head start? Why don't all teams give the rookies a week lead up? Why is it that some only do 2 days, and the Panthers, I think, have the exact same day? Everyone just pitches up on the same day. They give the rookies no head start or anything. So they just have to learn at the same pace as the vets.
Do you think that's a case of throwing them in at the deep end?
Well, it could be. Sink or swim, and then you know fully by the end of week 1 the ones that are making it and the ones that are getting cut pretty quickly. You probably could have that.
So is this a team decision? This isn't something that's mandated by the league?
I think it's a team decision. Yeah, I think they will have rules around what they can and can't do. So OTAs in the off season, which is the boring part of the season, where they have you can have 3 weekends over the 3 months where you can get players in. One of them has to have veterans on it, but only one of them, and the other 2 are kind of rookies only, but it can only be 3 days at a time, and you've got to have them X number of weeks apart or something daft like that. There's all kind of rules around it. So the amount of off season practices are very limited. And training camp, what's limited in that is the length. So there's a defined start date you can't be before. So teams can't just go get the head start on all teams and get everybody in say July the 10th and go, right, we're just having a 6-week training camp so everyone gets more time. There is a defined length of how long you're allowed for the vets, and that's why all the vets are landing between, I think it's the 25th or 26th, maybe even the 27th. There's only about a 2-day window between all the teams. But it's when the rookies report that varies massively between the teams, and but I don't know the detail on it. I just thought it was really interesting to see how some teams, some teams give them a week head start, and then they'll get used to the facilities because they've never been there before. They'll get used to. I mean, they kind of know the coach and staff through the season, but it just gives them more time. I don't know. I just thought it was maybe a good thing to do.
Okay, yeah, it definitely seems like a sort of logical move for most teams. But then, yes, I guess the counter argument to that is, it's like I said, it's the sink or swim attitude. You find out if these people are good enough, and if you think they're good enough, they should be able to do it from day one. That's, I guess, the counter argument to what you're talking about. But anyway, we sort of digress there.
Before we go into previews, I don't know if this is a subject we want to broach or not. I see Trump's been sticking his nose in again. What do we make of it?
Jesus. Yes. Gav, are you fully aware of even what's going on? I know you're a very busy guy at the moment.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I try and not read anything about that fucking
Alright, so what is it? He's basically come out and said that any player that kneels this year should just get the ban for the whole season.
Well, he was at least sort of sympathetic and said, first time you do it, 1 game, second time you do it, full season.
It's just... wasn't like America's big thing about, freedom of speech and all that sort of shit?
Yeah,
it's like...
I was just about to say, isn't it meant to be the land of the free?
It's first right, isn't it? The first amendment, they're 10 Commandments. No, it's not what it's called. What the hell is it called?
10 Commandments.
I'm sitting here because I've got my arms out because it's like, preach! I've gone instantly into Bible land. Jesus, not wrong.
If Trump had his way, it would be, Donald Trump's 10 Commandments.
I must only be referred to as Supreme Lord Leader of the world. But yeah, no, it's a bit stupid. However, hadn't the Dolphins had come out and said just prior to that they were contemplating banning their own players for 4 games if they kneeled during the anthem. There's definitely been a bit of a turn this off-season.
I would hope to see the Dolphins put that policy in place, and then the first game, the whole team walk out and take a knee. And how do they deal with that?
Can you imagine it?
Yeah. But ban us all for 4 games.
It'd be like now. How many years ago was it? Now I'm trying to think. Anyway, it was prior. They were doing the CBA agreement, and they hadn't got it done before week 1. Well, not last time, but a couple of times ago, and they had to play replacements for the first couple of weeks of the season. There wasn't any of the official players that could play for the teams because they are contracted to the Players Association, and because the deal wasn't in place, none of them could represent their teams. So they drafted in this whole pile of replacements to play for a couple of games. I think they had it sealed by about week 3. But I mean, I imagine how crazy that would be. The first 2 actual games of the season that mean stuff, and you have no idea who's playing on your team because if you just take this whole pile of guys off the street that aren't signed and make them play. Mental.
I think. How can there'll obviously be things going on behind the scenes where like the owners are being put under pressure by certain backers or whatever to try and stop this being a weekly news thing, because it is every week, from when it started. It's covered, it makes the news in the NFL space, and I think I'm not saying that the NFL are trying to stop it from happening, but I do think there'll be people saying, we need to now try and stop this, because people are talking about it every single week, and I just don't think it's good for the NFL. In terms
it's
of
totally detracting. You should not mix politics and sport. People should try and keep it as separate as possible. I mean, look at the World Cup. There was the 2 Swiss boys that did that celebration after their goals, Shaqiri and whatever, and they not get their arses kicked for it.
Yeah, they did the Albanian thing, wasn't it?
The Eagle celebration.
Yeah. So, and they got themselves in trouble for that, but
the
wrong sport,
issue
I suppose.
is
But
that,
anyway,
I
same
totally
problem.
agree with you that you should always try to keep sports and politics separate, but sport and politics have always been intertwined. So I don't.
I'm not denying it's not difficult to do. However, I still think people should try and be sensible and just keep them apart.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know how you deal with it, because you either put a blanket ban on all the players and say, right, no one's allowed to kneel, and then that goes against the whole everyone's got the freedom of free speech. Yep, that's the one. Or you go the opposite, which is, right, anyone can do whatever they want and we don't care, but then that's just going to become, as you have pointed out and said, that's just going to rumble and become a bigger thing and a bigger thing. And because they're going to put such a big divide in the country, naturally the numbers are going to start falling. And we all
I don't think it is going to become a bigger thing and a bigger thing, because I think last season, when it all peaked about week 7 or something, and as
the
you
owners
got
all
towards,
came out and joined hands.
Yeah, well, there was who did that?
Quite
Cowboys.
Teams, so,
Cowboys did that, didn't they?
Because All or Nothing, yes.
Yeah. But I think the conversation seemed to die down a little bit towards the end of the season. Guys were still kneeling, but there just wasn't the same focus on it. There wouldn't be the same focus on it if they didn't have an absolute reprobate as president of their country.
Yeah.
This is all
very true.
So.
Well, the owners discussed it. Straight in there.
Wow.
Gav just shanks Trump as he's walking past him.
I mean, like, I'm not an overly political person.
Yeah, if anyone misheard that, that's really awkward.
Jeez, we've ruined this podcast already.
Sorry, what were you saying, Gav?
I'm not an overly political person, but like, if you look at Trump, and I'm sure this is a conversation for another day, they've literally just put someone with loads of money as the president. Like, obviously there's more technical ways of looking at it than that, but he literally bought the presidency. So I just think everything that he does and everything that he is, I hope it comes back to him a million times over. Fuck Trump. I'm not sure if we want to edit this part out.
Right, well, we slowly move
anyway,
on with the show.
Yeah. I did give a precursor of this was going to be the worst podcast we've ever done, so we're doing our best to stick to that. So anyway, 18 minutes in and we're finally going to talk about what we're supposed to be talking about. So yeah, this episode we're going to be previewing our predictions for the NFC South. And just like the last few episodes, we're going to go in sort of reverse order, talking you through how we think the teams will finish, and we'll all have a little bit of say of where we think each team will finish. Does anyone want to go first? Oh, in fact, sorry, before I go on, this division contains the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, and the New Orleans Saints. For anyone that is new to the NFL, that's who's in the NFC South.
And we all know that because we googled it about half an hour ago.
Damn rookies.
Right, I'll jump in first. 4th place, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't need to say anything else. Cool. On to the next person.
Harsh but fair. I'm kind of with you on that, because I think keeping Cotter might be their downfall. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it before. I think, had we talked about on a previous episode about coaches that are going to get the punt next year and had already put his name in? I think he might actually get fired mid-season if they can't get anything going early. Squad-wise, they are really solid though, and that's the most annoying thing about the Bucs. On paper, I would say they're in the top half of all 32 teams, easy peasy. But they just couldn't get it together last season. Whether there's a Hard Knocks impact, that they play up for the cameras a bit and didn't actually focus on what they should be doing, and all started going horribly wrong at the beginning of the season, and they couldn't quite catch up. But their division is rock solid, and that's the other problem that they've got.
And just to sort of recover the point about a slow start, there's every chance they'll have a slow start this year as well, given that their quarterback is suspended for the first 4 games. Is that right?
So he is.
So I just think they're stuffed from the outset.
At least he's not stealing lobsters this time, eh? Got him on something else. Numbnuts.
Do you think that after all the hype that was there with Jameis Winston, he is getting very close to being shopped? Is he close to being moved on? Is he?
Ooh, interesting. I'm going to say not yet, because I don't think I don't think he's been the problem himself. But I kind of get where you're going with that. If he flames out this season big time, then there's going to be some serious questions being asked. But I'm not sure. He is absolutely a startable quarterback in the NFL. I'm trying to think in my head roughly where I'd rank him, and without putting it in all, I'm maybe about 20th. So he's nowhere. He's not definitely in the bottom, but we know fine he's not in that top tier, and he's probably not really hitting that solid second tier of quarterbacks as well. He can definitely make it. Whether he does it this year or not, I'm not sure. I'm not quite ready to give up on him yet.
So there'll probably be about a few obvious answers, but just whilst we're talking about where he fits in the rankings, what team do you think? Because I get where you're saying 20th, but there's only like one or two teams in my head where I'd go, yeah, I'd take Jameis Winston over what they have.
I see where you're going with this one, yeah. Well, see, right, the reason that I kind of guessed 20th straight off the top of my head is any team that's got a rookie starting, I've dismissed, and you can't say anything about that. So you can't say, would Jameis Winston start at the Jets? Well, prior to the draft, yeah, absolutely, because they didn't have Darnold, so they'd take him over McCown.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Okay. So the ones that haven't picked up a rookie this season, you cut them out right away because you don't know how they're going to go, and then you kind of get into the bottom clutter of, well, where would they sit? Would you take Winston over your man Tyrod? Well, I don't know. There's a pretty solid argument on that one. That's not a dig. That's a genuine query. That's you know what I mean?
No. I'm finding this quite hard to judge, actually, when I'm thinking about it, because...
Would you take him over Flacco? Possibly. I think he's got more upside than Flacco at the minute. I think Flacco's regressing.
I think
he's going up the way.
I'm just looking at all the teams right now, and the only team that I think that he's nailed down starter would be the Ravens, other than the Bucks. And maybe the Dolphins as well, actually, because Tannehill...
Yeah. But he's apparently been pretty good in a whole off season. He seems to be back on point, but obviously we'll have to wait till the actual season starts to see whether he is properly kicking it like he was prior to getting injured.
So I'm just going to quickly run through. This is again a little bit off topic, but just quickly. So you're not going to take him at the Cardinals. You're not going to take him at the Falcons. You're not going to take him at the Bills. You're not going to take him at the Panthers. You're not going to take him at the Bears. You're not going to take him at the Bengals. In fact, Bengals, Andy Dalton over Jameis Winston.
Ooh, possibly. Yeah, possibly.
The Browns aren't going to do it because they've got Taylor and Mayfield. Cowboys over Dak, probably not. Broncos over Case Keenum.
Maybe.
Not at the moment. Not with Case Keenum coming off the season that he's coming off of.
This is quite funny. This is obviously difficult to point it now as to maybe 3 months ago before free agency started. If you're going for the end of last season, how did everyone fall on how they were last season? I get where you're going. Yeah.
So the Lions, Packers, Texans, Colts. None of them are interested. Jags over Blake Bortles, maybe, but then he just took them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not Chiefs aren't doing it. Chargers aren't doing it. Rams aren't doing it. Vikings aren't doing it. Patriots aren't doing it. Saints aren't doing it. Giants over Eli. I'll give him that one, actually.
Possibly, yep.
Jets aren't. Raiders aren't. Eagles aren't. Steelers aren't. 49ers aren't. Seahawks aren't. Titans aren't. Redskins aren't. So there's a lot more.
Got that, yeah. So, maybe he's down 26-27 then, really, isn't he? We just done
That's the way I'm
done a quick straw poll there. All right. Well, I'm still not giving up on him yet, but I totally buy that. We've gone through it in a very sensible and systematic order. Let's see how it falls in a few weeks. I'm sitting there going, House Wrath, you were talking out your ass. 20th, no way. He's like 32nd.
Yeah. So back to the actual point of this podcast. I'm in agreement of the Bucks being fourth. I don't think it's anything other than how strong their division is, to be honest. Like you, Steve, I think they have a fairly decent team overall, but yeah, I just think their division, they are just the weakest. Simple as that. Okay, Andrew, number 3.
3, I have gone with the Falcons as 3 in this one, I think. As much of that about the other teams as it is about the Falcons. They've had 2 good seasons. They went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were in the playoffs last year. Matt Ryan's just got a huge contract. I don't know how that'll affect him. I don't know, maybe will he live up to that contract, or does having that contract put a bit of extra pressure on him? There's also a bit of a cloud over Julio Jones at the moment with his contract situation. Although he has got another 3 years left, he's angling for a new contract. So again, we don't know where he is mentally. They're still a strong side, but I think just there's a few question marks there, and I think after a couple of good seasons, I think they'll just have a bit of a lull this year. They'll be third, and I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
Steve-O, how's your thoughts?
On the Falcons, or who falls third?
Go for your thoughts to the Falcons first.
Okay, yeah, so I'd written down, would not addressing the Julio Jones situation cost them. However, as Andrew pointed out, there's 3 years still left on his deal. Teams will never renegotiate that far in advance. And he's still getting about 14.5 mil a season, which isn't shabby. However, it is the 8th highest paid receiver at the moment, and you can easily argue he should not be as low as 8 in terms of production. He's right up there. He's shade under Brown, but definitely in third or fourth. No worse than fourth, maybe. I'm trying to think who else is in that group, and I'm just it's Odell Beckham in there. Ooh, would you take Jones or Beckham? Ooh.
I'd go Jones, I think.
Maybe. He's really solid. I think he's really sensible, though. I think he's already had a pretty decent mega contract. I don't think he's going to hold out seriously long. It is his only play at the moment. If he wants to make a statement just now, he could not show up. I think it's Friday. They get to next Friday. So he could maybe hold out the first 3 or 4 days and then pitch up, just more as a minor statement than anything else. But I don't see him being the type of guy who's going to sit there and like Le'Veon Bell or whatever and go, nah, I'm not pitching up till the first day of the season, sodges. I think he's definitely more of a team player, so that's maybe the only kind of niggle going into there. Your thoughts on whether Matt Ryan would be, would the contract get to him or not? I don't think so. I totally get where you're thinking, that the fact that when you set the new benchmark, was it 30 million a year on average?
Yep.
First contract to get that. Do you get added pressure from it? I think, well, he's known as Matty Ice. That's his nickname, isn't it? He is so cool and calm about everything. He's a total pro. So I don't think it's going to get to him. So I don't have him in third. Funnily enough, I'm probably spoiling it a little bit, but yeah, I can totally get your points on that.
So just go into who you have at third then.
At third, yeah, I've got the Panthers. However, it's a lot closer than I think, probably. So it's as always with the Panthers, it's pretty much all on Super Cam and how he's going to do. And you've got the potential of him maybe going off the rails a bit, or he gets sulky and he just has a lull and he just goes a bit erratic for a few weeks. Or for whatever reason, Ron Rivera doesn't really stick with the ground game and hand him the ball maybe as much as he should. They've obviously got scatback extraordinaire that I cannot remember his name of, that they picked up last year in the draft. Someone help me out. You know who I'm talking about.
Christian
McCaffrey, that's the one.
Yeah.
Who they're going to try and get involved more this season. So what I've read is to be believed anyway. So again, does that pull back on the number of plays that you give the Cam and whatnot? I don't know. I don't really know. The one good thing though with the Panthers that, and this is where I got really unsure as to whether putting them in third was right, was they hired Norv Turner this off season for offensive coordinator. And actually, I like Norv. I really like everything he's done. I've really enjoyed watching him work. So I like that move for him. But he's going to have to juggle a few things. Panthers defense, front seven's really solid, back end's usually quite weak. And I don't think they did a huge amount to address that this season. I believe they picked up rookies in rounds 2 and 3 because they're supremely thin on cornerback, as they have been for a long while. So that's pretty much why I've dumped them in third.
Yeah, I think this division, you could argue a case for any one of the three teams that we've got left to actually win it. It's actually really strong, and I think you could put forward a pretty good case for all of these, and you could, come up with a fairly solid argument for any one of them to win the division. I have went for the Panthers at 3 as well. The reason behind that is not so much on them specifically, but one thing that did happen was they obviously lost their defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, who went to... Who did he go to again?
He went to the Arizona Cardinals.
That's it. I
just wait there for Dr. Smith to spin in there and go, my team, thank you very much.
I couldn't remember where he went there. But yeah, so losing him, obviously one thing the Panthers have been, their D has always been, like you mentioned, Steve, up front they've been pretty good, but their secondary, since they lost Josh Norman, hasn't really been that great. So yeah, I think the fact that their cornerbacks is their weakest spot when you've got to play against, Matt Ryan, you've got to play against Drew Brees. I just think like divisionally that'll be the thing that picks them apart, and that's what's going to make them fall into the third spot into this division. I also don't particularly care for the Panthers. I don't like Ron Rivera. I don't like Cam Newton.
Does anyone like Cam Newton? That's a genuine question. Does anyone out there like him?
See when he's on it and he's enjoying the game and he's, some of the stuff he did in his first 2 years where he was, because of the size of him, playing quarterback but basically bulldozing people around because he's built like a linebacker is just brilliant. When he's on it, he's really fun to watch. I think he just gets a bit too erratic and it's his locker room antics, inverted commas, and I say that is really broad. It's like when he huffs, the fact he did it straight after the Super Bowl rather than taking the high ground and going, yeah, we didn't win this year, whatever. He just sulked about it. And I don't know, it was a weird one because I don't know if we've talked about this before, but there's a little bit of me like I can totally sympathise with why he was like that. I get, he's really bummed out. Why do you have to do all the media stuff straight after? But as a professional, that's what you're getting paid to do, so you kind of just got to suck it up for a little bit longer and do what you're meant to be doing. But
yeah, so for me, I don't like the off-field side of him. I quite like. There's certainly a cockiness on the field. I remember one thing that sticks in my mind from last season. There was one game they ran a circle route, and there was a video from a couple of weeks later where they were setting up a play. And one of the guys on the defense shouts, "This is the circle route, this is the circle route," and starts directing. And Cam just said to him, "You've been watching tape. Watch this," and threw a touchdown, which I thought was brilliant.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
But yeah, some of the off-field stuff, I can't take to him.
It just doesn't sit right, eh?
Yeah.
Is that because we are Brits? No, I was actually seriously thinking about this now. Do we, because of the country we are, don't agree with that because it's not proper and correct?
No, see, I'm gonna make a comparison to football.
Yeah.
I think Cam is he comes across as completely arrogant, but not in any way humorous with it. If you want to compare him to someone that comes across as arrogant but still comes across fantastically well, I would compare that to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Whereas, because he does come across as hugely arrogant, but he also doesn't take himself seriously. So I think that he always comes across excellently.
And there's no denying he's backed it up continually as well.
Well, yeah, that's
the thing.
True.
Yeah. I suppose to agree, you could argue so is Cam, isn't he? I mean, if you take his record as a quarterback and give it to kind of almost the problem we did earlier. I'm not going to do it again because it'll take too long. But if you give Cam record, how many other teams are going to take it as a quarterback? A lot of them are going to bite your hand off and say, if you give me a quarterback that gives me that many wins and losses, I don't have a number on top of my head, but been in the playoffs and Super Bowl multiple occasions since he's been there, pretty much every other team's going to take it.
I am interested to see how he works with Norv Turner. Norv Turner's not really had a quarterback like that recently.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interested to see how they connect, how their chemistry is, because obviously Cam tends to call a lot of things himself, and a lot of it, gets that Russell Wilson style, just scat back plays where you just, nobody really knows what Cam's going to do. Cam doesn't even know what Cam's going to do.
Or what he's going to wear afterwards, and he comes out in some stupid fedora and, 3-piece suite with a long trench coat.
3-piece suite?
He's probably fucking concussed half the time.
3-piece suite? He's turning up dressed as an armchair.
Yeah, sweet. Suit, yeah, sweet, yeah. God, we're just talking shit again. Jesus. It's too late. It's past my bedtime.
No, I mean, genuinely, that type of stuff is why I can't take Tim. It's all that, particularly when it's like weeks where he doesn't perform and he comes out wearing some stupid outfit.
Absolutely, like he is the man. He's clearly got some designer who dresses him in super high-end fashion stuff, and it's like, right, when you win this week, you're going to step out looking like an absolute pimp. Here we go. And of course he sulks out looking like a pimp, and it just makes him look stupid. But
okay,
hey, less of the fashion stuff. I clearly don't know nothing about it myself anyway, so hey.
Okay, Andrew, on to your number 2 in the division.
Right, number 2, we're not going to tread over all the ground that we've just treaded over, because I have the Panthers in at number 2. I've just maybe a bit more optimistic in my outlook on how they'll do. For all Cam's flaws off the field, when he's on it, he's outrageously good, because he can do everything. He can pass the ball, he can run the ball himself. So yeah, good enough for second, probably good enough for the playoffs, not good enough to win the division. So yeah, Panthers in 2 for me.
Yeah, and then I kind of flipped just what Andrew was. I had the Falcons in 2. I think they are just going to beat out the Panthers record-wise and probably sneak in as a wild card like they did last year. They aren't. I don't think they're going to challenge for the top, and I'm depending on where you go, Gav. I know fine, obviously, and so can the listeners figure out where Andrew and I are now sitting at. They are the team in 1 is just too far ahead of them. Going back to the Falcons though, going back to what I said earlier, Jones, I don't think he's going to be a problem. They've brought in Calvin Ridley to help out. They've got Freeman and Coleman in the back end. Their offensive line's pretty solid, so offensively they're fine. They're going to be able to score. That isn't going to be a problem. Defense is always where they've had potential problems over the last few years, and that's a really broad statement because they kind of go up and down as the seasons go by. Whether they're back on it, I think last year they were pretty decent defensively compared to previous years. So I'm just hoping they kind of keep that trend going. But that's why I ended up putting them in 2.
Okay, cool. I can totally understand that. I am going to be controversial, as per, and I'm saying that second in this division is the New Orleans Saints, and the reason behind that is a few different things. First of all, I didn't particularly like what they done in the draft. Was it Marcus Davenport they picked up in the first round? I think a lot of people were a bit baffled by that.
Yeah, probably the Saints themselves as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for first round talent is so important to teams, they can't afford to get it wrong. So yeah, for the Saints, I think that was something that was a negative. Secondly, all the chat about what's happening with Mark Ingram, I think that's going to have a bit of an impact, and I do think Alvin Kamara can handle the workload himself fine. I totally do. But think how much of a relief that was for Alvin Kamara not having to play every single snap, and also think how difficult that becomes for the Saints if he becomes the be all and end all. If he goes down, which can happen to running backs more than most, if he goes down, does that then impact their season? They also the other thing I want to talk about is, I can't remember the exact saying, but it was something that I can't remember who said it, but the it was like the quickest adapting creature in the world as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. I can't remember who it was that said it, but they when someone picks up on something, it's only something for so long. And the Alvin Kamara thing, obviously last year he was a complete commodity. Nobody knew what to expect from him. He was a 3rd round pick, and he just tore it up. I don't think he'll get anywhere near the sort of, what's the word?
Production.
Lack of respect. No, I still think he could be productive, but I think that's going to be down to Mark Ingram being out of it. But what I do think will be, I don't think he'll like if you were to compare his average yards, that will go down. So yeah, his production, I suppose. I think his overall numbers will be roughly the same because of the Mark Ingram thing, but I think his actual individual averages will drop, and that is because in the NFL,
they'll scheme against them.
Whatever's new, exactly. And I think teams like the Falcons, who are obviously my number one, which I may as well go on to, I think what they'll do against Drew Brees is they'll say, okay, beat us in there. I think they'll stack the box. And Drew Brees, I'm not saying he's regressed Eli Manning style. He's still a great quarterback. But yeah, they don't have they've got Michael Thomas, but then I was looking at the Falcons cornerbacks, so they've got Robert Alford, Isaiah Oliver they picked up in the 2nd round, Justin Bethel, Keanu Neal. They're actually, that's a really, really good secondary. I think there's somebody else that I'm missing as well, but yeah, I think for that reason, I think this division will be extremely close, and it will come down to the head-to-heads. Desmond Trufant, that's exactly who it was. Yeah, so you think of the names that you just mentioned there, they could all easily start for any team in the league.
Start at the Panthers. They could do with some help.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that the Falcons have got 5 players that they can rotate in between that secondary, and Keanu Neal looked amazing last year. So yeah, I think this will come down to the head-to-heads between the Falcons and the Saints, and I fancy the Falcons to take it. So that's down to the way that I think they'll be able to scheme. And I also think the Falcons had a lot of teething issues with a new coach, Steve Sarkisian. And I think he'll be a little bit sharper this year as well. So yeah, I'm sort of flipping it, opposed to what's the status quo. Tell me why I am wrong, Andrew.
Yeah, so I've gone with obviously the Saints as one. While yes, Ingram's out. Is it 4 games Ingram's out for as well? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
First 4, right? Okay. So yeah, for a start, it's only 4 games that he's missing for, and then they have him back. I think Kamara, if any team are going to be happy enough to lose a running back of the stature of Mark Ingram, it's the New Orleans Saints because of Alvin Kamara. It's not just that he is a running threat, he's a threat through the air as well. You talked about teams then saying, well, throw it through the air. So you've got Alvin Kamara, you've got Michael Thomas, you've also got Ted Ginn, who is a decent receiver as well. So I do think they have a fairly strong passing game, and it's Drew Brees under centre. He'll find them, I think, regardless. So yeah, I do think that the offense is just strong enough with enough options that they'll get over the line to win that division. And then in week 4 or week 5 it'll be when Mark Ingram's back. You have the dual-headed beast, so to speak, of that running game, with one of them fresh. And they'll probably not be as successful as they were.
So how come they weren't able to do it last year? Just out of curiosity, because the Falcons obviously got further.
Yeah.
What do you think is a positive that's changed? So if you look at it, of people now know what to expect from them.
See,
what's the
the
positive?
way I've come out my order is not necessarily what a positive change is in the Saints. I think the Falcons will regress a bit this year and drop back, rather than the Saints taking a jump forward.
Okay. Steve-O, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got the Saints in at 1 as well. And again, I kind of said earlier, I thought the gap between them and the Falcons was too big. You've done quite well to actually convince me. Maybe I'm not as right as I thought I was earlier. Maybe only particularly Saints versus Falcons, though. I mean, a lot of how this division is going to fall out is going to be, how the teams play against each other. However, it will also be, of course, how they play against the other teams in outside of their divisions as well.
That's got to be one of the most obvious statements I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, we can cut that one out.
It will be decided by the results against each other and also the other teams. So shit,
basically
Steve.
their final record, yeah. Sorry, I'm just my brain's mush now. Okay. So what did I put down? So yeah, I had the point about maybe taking Davenport too high. Could have been a problem. But I was kind of like, look, you've still got Breeze, you've got Kamara, you've got Ingram. Defense was improved last year anyway, so even if Davenport doesn't plug in week 1, if defense play as well as they did last season, it doesn't matter when he fits in. If he takes a couple of weeks to get in the rotation or whatnot. But if he then gets in and he becomes a bit like one of these crazy sack masters that they don't do much, but when they are on the field they're causing havoc, and they only put them in on third downs or things like that. That would be awesome. Hell, the opposite problem is he could come straight in like Joey Bosa was a few years ago and just absolute game wreck, which would just be even better. The Ingram being sat for a few weeks might actually help him, bizarrely, because he's not saying he's long in the tooth, but he's in his second contract now. We must be on year 6 or 7. So giving him that extra 4 weeks rest actually bizarrely might help. He'll be even fresher as the season goes on. He won't wear down, and he's totally, so Kamara's your fast, gadget type player and can speed off and whatnot. Ingram's I'm going to carry it, I'm going to pummel that defense like nobody's business and just power straight through them. So you give him a bit more rest and you keep him fresher for the end of the season when teams are getting more worn down, and you just give him the ball and absolutely pound the opposing teams to hell. Yeah, I just thought the Saints were just going to be too good for the rest of the division.
Okay, that's wrong.
Well, you're hosting this week, so you can say whatever you want. It's fine.
I'm just kidding. I mean, I do think that the gap will be really small between these two teams, and it could I'd already said it will come down to the two head-to-heads between these two, and I just think that there'll be just enough for the Falcons to scheme effectively against the Saints, where I don't think the Saints will be able to cope with Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Freeman, and Tevin Coleman. I think that's just a little bit better than what the Saints have overall. So I do think it just comes down to these two individual games. So yeah. Okay. So that is us covered the NFC.
As an aside, do you think this division will be as dominant as it was last year?
Sorry, say that again, mate.
So I said, as an aside, do we think that this division will be as dominant as it was last year?
Yes. Yeah.
You think
I don't.
You think you could have 3 teams in the playoffs from this division again?
I think that all 3 of those teams that are the 3 of the top 4 are going to have winning records, and I think they could be strong enough to get. Yeah. I'm going to go all in on that. I'm going to say that they'll do it.
Okay, interesting.
What division would you say is close enough? The NFC East is pretty stacked.
Yes,
West
they could
I
have
think
a bit
the
of a
West is
resurgence. It's the
strong
West,
as well.
yeah. The West
Yeah.
is the sneaky one that I'm not too sure about, and I'm with you on that. I think it is a big effort, and I know we'll get to it in a few weeks when we get around to then. But it's the unknown of how much better could the 49ers be, because if they continue their trajectory, Cards bounce back. The Rams are going to be well in the hunt anyway. And Seahawks, if they don't regress as much as everyone fears, then Christ, the four of them could be battle. They could be this year what the South was last year.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I was making.
Yeah, no, totally. I was just backing up. Yeah.
Okay, so do we think...
There's arguments for all the NFC sides, if you think about it, the divisions, because the North, you've got Detroit Bears and Vikings and Packers, yeah. And then the East, I actually can't even remember now. Have we talked about any of these teams already, or are they still upcoming?
No, not yet. They're still to come.
Alright, go, yeah. It's AFC, we did AFC North and AFC...
Yeah, we did, yeah.
What one? South, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Did we speak about one of these teams?
No, it was definitely it was two AFC divisions we did last time.
Yeah, AFC South and AFC North. That's the first two we've done. Yeah, this is only the third one.
As you can see, we are
super
really
prepped.
Yeah,
polished article.
Yeah. Okay, so we've spoke about a few things in this division and how we think it will pan out. So does anyone have any other thoughts on this division before we close off?
I think I've covered everything.
Okay. So that's us for this week. We'd like to thank you for listening and putting up with all the nonsense that's been in this extremely well rehearsed podcast. So Steve, where can the guys find you?
We apologise, but it is the first day back after a long break. It's like being holiday on your first day back at work. You just kind of have to ease yourself in gently, thanks all again for listening. You can get me at WisePranker on Twitter. You can also get me through at FC Podnet. It's part of the Fair City Podcast Network, because I co-host that too.
Nice one. Andrew, where can we get you?
You can get me personally at AndrewDHD on Twitter, and obviously you can find us at the AF Cast on Twitter or the American Fitbaw Cast on Facebook.
What does DHD stand for again? I feel like I asked this every podcast.
I think you do.
You bloody do! You're not getting to the point where you're doing this on purpose.
Things Gav will talk about. Tyrod Taylor, what does DHD stand for?
And someone's being a dick. That's a new one going to be on the list.
Consistency, guys.
Die Hard Doonhamer, as we've discussed previously.
Die Hard Doonhamer. Okay, cool. Right, I'll try and remember that, but it probably won't happen.
Hashtag consistency.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, guys. So I just realised I didn't even introduce myself. So you'll find me at GavJohnMill1 on the Twitter sphere. Thank you for putting up with this nonsense. I'd like to thank everyone that gives this a chance. Please tell your friends about it, because we don't have any.
Oh, we laugh because it's true.
Yeah. A polite beg for listeners.
We will pay you to share this.
No, we won't. No, I won't. You might, I won't.
You flush with cash in your new job, Gav. Is that what's happened?
I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm kind of a big deal. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Take care and see you soon.
You've been listening to another great podcast from the Fair City Podcast Network, a group dedicated to connecting and developing podcasts. Check out fcpod.net for more great podcasts and content.